between passports because some rules. Nobody tells you.
Hey, welcome to Between Passports. I'm Vinny. Okay, I want to start this week with a question. And it's an honest question, not a rhetorical one. What happens when two of the warmest, loudest, most food-obsessed, most family-first cultures on the planet have to plan a wedding together? I'll tell you what happens. 6 months of the most affectionate, most loving, most passive-aggressive cultural warfare you have ever witnessed in your life. Conducted entirely through competing menus, conflicting flower arrangements, and one catastrophic video call about ceremony music that lasted 2 hours and resolved nothing. Her name is Layla, Iranian from Tehran. He is Marco, Italian from Rome. They are completely in love, and they are about to find out that getting married is the easy part. This is Between Passports. I'm Vinny, and this week, somebody's getting married, whether their families agree on how or not. So, Layla, 28 years old, software engineer, moved from Tehran to Rome 4 years ago for work, met Marco at a friend's dinner party, and within about 40 minutes of conversation, she told me, that this was going to be complicated in the best possible way. Marco is 31, works in architecture, has the specific energy of someone who has been loved unconditionally by a very loud family his entire life and has no idea that this is not universal. He's warm, he's funny, he's deeply, profoundly unaware of the forces gathering around him. They got engaged on a rooftop in Trastevere. Sunset, the whole thing. It was, by all accounts, perfect. And they called their families. Both families were overjoyed. Both families immediately began planning. Both families were, from that moment forward, technically working toward the same goal. A beautiful wedding for two people they love, while occupying completely parallel universes about what that meant. I want to introduce you to the key players here, because in this story, the supporting cast is everything. Maman, Layla's mother, 61 years old, has been mentally planning this wedding since Layla's third birthday party, which she also organized and which was, by all accounts, extraordinary. She has very specific opinions about flowers. White roses, because that is correct. And even more specific opinions about the food, specifically the Tahdig, which is a Persian crispy bottom rice dish that is so important at Iranian celebrations that serving it badly is considered a personal failure of character. Nonna, Marco's grandmother, 74 years old, made her own wedding dress. He still has opinions about it. Believes that a wedding without a live band is essentially a business meeting. Also has very specific opinions about flowers. Abundant, colorful, everywhere. And about food, specifically that 3 courses of antipasto is the minimum acceptable hospitality for any gathering of more than 6 people. Both women want exactly the same thing, for this wedding to be perfect. They have completely different definitions of perfect. And they have both been smiling at each other warmly for 6 months. The smiles have not always reached their eyes. The first battleground was the menu. Now, I want to be careful about the word battle here, because nothing was ever hostile. Everything was warm. Everything was expressed through love. But make no mistake, this was a negotiation, and both parties came prepared. Maman's proposal: Persian food, specifically tahdig, the centerpiece, non-negotiable. Also, gourmet sabzi, which is a herb stew that takes approximately a lifetime to make correctly and tastes like a hug from someone who has never let you down. Also, rice dishes, salads, sweets, a full, abundant, celebratory Iranian spread. Nonna's counter proposal: Italian food, of course. Three kinds of antipasto to start, because one would be insufficient and two would be slightly embarrassing. Then pasta, handmade, obviously. Then a fish course. Then a meat course. Then dessert. Also a wedding cake. Also pastries. Also anything else anyone wanted, because the guests should leave unable to move and deeply happy about it. Both proposals were amazing. Both proposals were also, in the view of the other side, slightly beside the point. Layla suggested a compromise: serve both. A hybrid menu: Persian dishes alongside Italian ones, a table that represents both families. Both mothers smiled. Both mothers said, "What a wonderful idea." Both mothers, separately, in separate phone calls, continued planning their original menus. Because here's what Layla had not yet understood, and what she understood very well by the end of 6 months: the menu was never really about the food. When Maman insisted on the Tahdig, she was not being difficult about rice. She was saying, "My culture is here, at this table. My history is here. The way I love is here. This dish is my family showing up for yours." And when Nonna insisted on 3 courses of antipasto, she was saying exactly the same thing. In Italian, of course, with more olive oil.
Enjoying the story? Follow us so you don't miss the next one.
Here's what I want to ask you. If you were Layla, watching both of your mothers simultaneously refuse to budge on the menu because both of them are expressing love in the only language they know, what would you do? Drop your answers in the comment, because I asked Layla this exact question and her answer surprised me. We'll come back to it. While the menu negotiations were ongoing, a second front opened: the ceremony. Layla's family wanted it to last 2 hours. A beautiful, meaningful, complete 2 hours. Music, readings, the ceremony itself, time for photographs. 2 hours. Marco's family wanted it to last 6. Not 6 as in they had a lot of readings planned. 6 as in they really believed that anything under 4 hours was, on some level, rushing it. That a marriage is a serious undertaking and deserves, at minimum, the same investment of time as a transatlantic flight. That the guest should arrive, settle in, feel the joy accumulate over hours, and leave, changed. Layla's family, meanwhile, pointed out very reasonably that their guests include elderly relatives who have flown from Tehran and cannot stand for 6 hours, and that a beautiful wedding does not require everyone's needs to give out before the reception even begins. Both positions were held with the absolute conviction of people who love the couple deeply and are completely bewildered by the other side's position. The compromise they eventually reached was 3.5 hours. Nobody was happy, which, Layla told me, is the only sign you've actually reached a real compromise. She cried in a bathroom for 11 minutes, then went back out and smiled. She smiled a lot during this process. She got very good at it. Midway through this whole process, Layla started keeping a mental log, a translation guide, what people said versus what people meant. When Nonna said, "Of course, we can try the Persian rice. I'm sure it's lovely," she meant, "I will eat one small spoonful and spend the rest of the evening describing the lasagna we could have had." When Maman said, "The Italian menu is beautiful, so simple," she meant simple. When both mothers said, "Whatever the couple wants, it's their day," they both meant, "As long as what the couple wants is what I want," in which case these all have been very straightforward. And when Layla said to everyone who asked, "Everything's fine, we are making really good progress," she really meant, "Please, someone, help." I want to pause here and ask you something directly because I've been sitting with these questions for some days now. Whose wedding is it actually? Lila and Marcus? In theory. But in practice, when two families have been dreaming about this day for decades, and every flower and dish and song is an expression of who they are, does the wedding belong to the couple? Or does it belong to everyone who loves them? I don't think there is a clean answer, but I think it matters that we ask it. Drop your thoughts below. I mean it. I read them all. Here's how it actually went. 3 hours and 40 minutes. Longer than Layla wanted, shorter than Nonna wanted. The flowers were white roses and also colorful and also abundant because nobody could choose, so they chose everything, like two gardens becoming one without discussing it. Maman woke up at 5 in the morning, made a tahdig in her own kitchen, carried it to the venue in a pot wrapped in 3 towels inside a suitcase, and plated it herself. Nonna's tiramisu, also homemade, also hand-transported, also plated by nobody but Nonna, was similarly unrepeatable. The guests ate until they couldn't move, then danced, then ate again. Sometime around midnight, something happened that nobody had planned. Maman and Nonna ended up on the dance floor at the same time. 12 words of Farsi between them, 20 words of Italian. The band was playing something neither of them could name. Somewhere between the two sets, and Nonna held out her hand. They danced together for 2 songs. Layla watched from across the room and cried. Not because it was over, but because it worked. I realized that night that they had never actually been disagreeing. They were both just trying to show up as fully as they knew how. They just had different ideas of what fully looked like. That's it. That's the whole story.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Okay, I want to give you something to hold on to from this story, beyond the fact that both the tahdig and the tiramisu were amazing. There is a concept in cross-cultural psychology that calls weddings as a collective ritual in collectivist cultures, and both Iranian and Italian cultures score very high on collectivism. A wedding is not primarily a celebration of two individuals. It's a public statement made by two families to their communities about who they are. The food, the length, the flowers, the music, none of these are personal preferences in that framework. They are expressions of family identity. They are saying to every guest, this is what we value. This is how we love. This is who we are, and we are bringing all of it to this table. Which means that when Maman insisted on the tahdig, when she carried it on a plane in a pot wrapped in 3 towels, she was not being controlling about a rice dish. She was saying, I am here. My culture is here. Everything I am and everything I've given my daughter is in this pot, and it belongs at this wedding. And Nonna, with her antipasto and her live band and her tiramisu she wouldn't let anyone else plate, she was saying the same thing in Italian, with a little bit more cheese. The tragedy and the comedy of cross-cultural weddings is that both families are completely right. Both expressions of love are valid. And the poor couple in the middle has to somehow hold both of those truths simultaneously for 6 months without losing their mind. Layla did it. She was tired. She cried in bathrooms. She smiled when she didn't feel like smiling. And then, at midnight, she watched two women who disagreed about everything hold hands and dance. I think she would do all of it again. Layla and Marco, if you're listening, the Tahdig was perfect. The tiramisu was delicious. The 3.5 hours was, I think, exactly right. And thank you for letting me tell this one. If you have been through a cross-cultural wedding, either as the couple, or as a Maman, or as a Nonna, I want to hear from you. Come find us at betweenpassports.com. Between Passports is on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music, and many aggregators. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And if this episode hit you in any way, the funny way or the other way, share it with someone who will get it. You know exactly who that person is. I'm Vinny. This is Between Passports, where we ask the question nobody wants to answer out loud. Do I hear an accent?
We are Between Passports. Glad you're here. Share your story at betweenpassports.com.